International Cargo Show 2023 powered by All Cargo Group. I hope everyone had a fruitful networking and some delicious food just like I did. Let me also take a moment to thank our partners and sponsors. A powered by sponsor All Cargo, a platinum sponsor Turkish Cargo, a gold sponsor Etihad Cargo and Samsara Group, a lanyard sponsor JW Group, a lounge sponsor Adani Airport Holdings, and a badge sponsor Skyways Group. Our next panel for the day echoes the ideology of IICS, India's Logistic Leap, unleashing growth across multimodal logistics. In the contemporary landscape, logistics stands as the gateway to international trade and commerce. India, with its vast potential, stands on the precipice of unlocking unparalleled opportunities, poised to reinforce its standing as a global logistic leader. Today's panel discussion is a dedicated exploration into India's logistic leap, a journey that promises multifold growth across air, ocean, and surface transport. First, I would like to invite on stage a moderator for this panel discussion, Ms. Chaitali Mehta, Director, EKF Global Logistics. With 25 years in logistics, she's the powerhouse behind EKF Global Logistics Mumbai, a problem-solving maven and the first woman office bearer for ACCAI Western Region. She's a trailblazer in the air cargo industry. Her expertise in air cargo and projects adds immense value to the group. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for the absolutely wonderful Chaitali Mehta. Welcome, ma'am. Next, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Giridharan Srivasan, General Manager, Indian Subcontinent Etihad Cargo. He boasts a rich background in the aviation industry spanning over 20 years. His expertise extends across managing global accounts and overseeing Indian domestic air cargo in previous roles. He brings a blend of academic depth and a practical experience to his leadership in the airline industry. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Mr. Giridharan. Now I would like to invite on stage Mr. Subrat Sahu, Vice President, Head Supply Chain Management, JSW Steel. With over 29 years of expertise in iron ore procurement, logistics, and supply chain, he's a true industry leader with a vision for industry excellence. He has a long-term mission for taking up the mines and steel industry to the sky in all aspects from low-cost supply chain to production. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Mr. Subrat Sahu. Next, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Arush Kishore, Head Integrated Operations Liquid and Gas, Reliance Industries. With 13 years of shaping logistics and business planning, he's the maestro behind the scenes, ensuring the perfect equilibrium of people, processes, and platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear from Mr. Arush Kishore. And our last panelist for today, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Umesh Joshi, Head Supply Chain Dabur. With over 20 plus years of experience in retail, FMCG, consumer goods, and auto sector, he is a senior supply chain leader with a proven history of delivering value, efficiency, and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Mr. Umesh Joshi. And now over to our wonderful moderator, Ms. Chaitali Mehta. Have a wonderful panel discussion.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Did everybody have good lunch right now? Is the energy up in the room? You need to be a little more vocal because we have a very special guest today. And so if there's not enough energy in the room, two things will happen. One, I'll get a lot of criticism when I go home. And second is I'm not going to get invited by Ayushi and Mohit next year. So we need to have a lot more energy here. Good afternoon and welcome to our session. It is common knowledge that logistics in India has never had it better. Yes, I know, and I'm aware of all the problems that we face on a daily basis. But having said that, we cannot deny that the last couple of years, in spite of everything, we are actually happening. Ever since COVID, the industry has come into focus. There has been an influx of investment, especially in technology, and we are now seeing serious conversations around sustainability. Logistics encompasses so many substreams and verticals, but the core are the four modes of transport: ocean, air, road, and rail, which makes everything else possible. One of the indicators of growth in Indian logistics is that India achieved a remarkable improvement in its score from 78.5% in 2019 to 90.3% in 2021 under the United Uniscap Global Survey on Digital and Sustainable Trade Facilitation, as per their records. As per the Economic Survey 2021, the logistics industry accounts for 13 to 14% of the country's GDP. The industry's contribution to the economy is mainly due to the efficient movement of goods, which helps reduce costs and increase productivity. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where multimodal logistics plays an important role. To go back to the origins, multimodal transport derived its name from the United Nations Convention on International Multimodal Transport of Goods of 1980. To put it simply, it refers to logistics and freight processes that require multiple modes of transportation, namely ocean, air, road, and rail. Considering this, it comes as no surprise that according to the Economic Survey of 2021, the logistics industry employs over 22 million people in the country, making us one of the largest employers in India. A little round of applause for our industry. The Government of India has introduced several initiatives to improve the Indian logistics sector: GST, National Logistics Policy, Bharatmala and Sagarmala projects, Dedicated Freight Corridor Project, National Highway Development Project, Unified Logistics Interface Platform, Maritime Vision 2030, and Amritkal Maritime Vision 2047. And now, to discuss this, the multimodal requirements, and how we are poised for growth, I would like to welcome my expert panelists. May I please have your opening statements, Arush, starting with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chatali, for giving me the opportunity to share with you what we do in Reliance on multimodal. Uh, Let me begin with a global statement. In today, the requirement is to move goods in a sustainable manner in our country and in the world. You look at the European norms, if you were to sell in Europe, you have to be green or at least have those credentials in place. We cannot have those credentials in place unless we look at logistics in a sustainable way. And to look at logistics in a sustainable way, we have to go multimodal. There is no way we can continue to do the work that we have always, like the way we have always done. Uh, Having said that, Reliance's experience has been pretty much in the same direction. For example, I can share with you a meta number. We do about almost 100% of stock transfers to South India by multimodal, almost half of them by coastal. So, uh, uh, so as a company, as a practitioner, we are all uh, we are all looking at new opportunities to deploy and move our goods across the country. A promising one that's emerging, not really for my company, but generally in logistics, is the inland waterway transfers. And over the last 5 years, we've seen like a growth from some 1% to I think nearly 2% of all movement happening through inland waterways. Uh, so I guess the understanding is there across the industry. It's just that we need to find use cases, commercial cases to deploy.
Thank you very much, Arush. And I guess Reliance would be at the forefront considering the kind of goods that you all manufacture and that you produce. Coming to Giri, if you could have your views.
First of all, a warm good afternoon to all of you. And this is, such a wonderful event, and we're all, look forward to. And from my side, there are three things, I want to talk about. The first one, if you look at, Etihad as an organization, we recently celebrated our 20th year anniversary. And so we talk about, three things, The first one, we talk about innovation. And second, like, what Arush has mentioned about, sustainability. And the third thing, we also talk about the multimodal and integration of various solutions. So the technology is the major thing we are focusing right now, and I'm very glad to speak about a few technological initiatives and whatever we have taken recently to enhance the cargo industry. Thank you.
Thank you. And sustainability, technology, digitalization, they're pretty much the in buzzwords. I would say that maybe Oxford Dictionary needs to create another dictionary for logistics people to have these in, because they're all everywhere, and I guess it's time that we embrace them if we haven't really embraced them. So look forward to learning about Etihad's initiatives. Coming to Mr. Sahu, Subratji, if you can tell us something. Sorry, I should ask, is everybody legible to the people at the back, or should we increase the volume? Ayushi, okay? Okay. No, his mic is not working.
Yeah, I think it's working. Yeah. Yeah, good afternoon to everybody. That at least we are glad to see that even after the post-launch session, the house is almost occupied by 90%. Yeah, this is a good sign, so that at least we will be also a little bit energetic to interact with you all, subject to Chaitali's permission and giving time to us. And basically what I will tell now, there is a lots of improvement in logistics. The logistics, what was before 20 years, now completely there is a drastic change. Like in technology, the decision making, the integration between road, sea and rail, all types of logistics. So what my colleague told about multimodal logistics, now all companies, they depend on multimodal logistics. The earlier days have gone where only rail was there, or road was there, or sea was there, or air was there. That concept has gone. And in fact, our now Government of India is also doing a marvelous job. They have devised a national logistics policy. With that, if you compare our GDP right now, about 13 to 14% of our GDP is itself in towards logistics cost. Now, the Government of India is trying to make it to 8%, which is the benchmark. Only USA is at 8% logistics GDP if you calculate as of now. And even we are coming on the among top, if you in the ascending order, if you see, we are on 8th position. So that the Government of India has taken various initiatives in road, rail, sea, as well as air. So then it will take time, but I think we should be able to achieve it. So anyway, after this session, we will depend on the questions from Chaitali and the audiences. Then accordingly, it should be an interactive session. It's not that we are here, we know everything. There may be our audiences, they know better than us. So it should be an interactive session. Thank you.
Thank you, Subratji. And the logistics cost is highly debatable. So depending on which side of the logistics side you are talking to, if you are talking to us as vendors to the importers and exporters, then I think our conversation will go on and on and on. Next, Umesh, if we can have your opening comments, please.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you, Chetali, for being me here. So I am heading supply chain in Dabur, India. So we have almost 1,800 SKUs, and we have 14 plus our own plants here in India, and around similar plants in globally in other locations. And we work across more than 100 third-party manufacturers to make our SKUs. And we are in most of the categories in FMCG space. And we import some of the goods, and we export a lot of goods also, I mean, from here. So, so as of now, we are using train sea as well as road also, right? Most of the domestic happens by road, but whatever import comes in India, it comes either by train or it comes by a sea. So government is working to improve the infrastructure, working on national policy, and Gati Shakti project will be giving lot of thrust for improvement in infrastructure. And best of the class companies in India, if you see inbound cost, which is RM PMC inward cost plus your FG primary, secondary and warehousing cost, every company will be more than 10% in India actually. So I see there is lot of opportunity, reduce the waste, bring the efficiencies and bring down the cost and improve the bottom line of the organization. And definitely logistics activity is not much value added activity if you see it, right? You are not adding much value into the product, but you are incurring the cost. So there is lot of scope for improvement. I think the coming days as the government is working with the private players and pumping money from their side also, it will bring lot of efficiency.
You know, logistics is always an ongoing improvement, because otherwise, what used to be millions of years ago on carts with animals, we wouldn't come today to this stage. So that is one part of it, because we are always a constant work in progress. And never at one point can we say that, okay, this is good enough, because you have shippers, you have importers who are always looking out for more. I think we as logistics players, we ourselves are very hungry for change. And that is why we always want to grow. And if we grow, the world grows. And my favorite dialogue always has been, ever since I entered the industry, was that we are the spine and the backbone to the global economy. If it was not for us, every single stream, substream, vertical of logistics, doesn't matter how small, minuscule, or how big, the world would not survive and we wouldn't have mankind over here. And thank you for highlighting about rail logistics. That is something that we look forward to learning from you, because I personally believe that it is very underutilized for various reasons, and I would be happy to learn more from you. Starting off with, this is a question for our panelists here, for Subrat, Umesh and Arush, because all of you come from different streams and you are our shippers and importers on stage today. Your industries are different, your requirements are different, your end users are different. Yet none of your industries can work or function optimally without logistics, especially the multimodal part of it. What are the bottlenecks that each one of you faces, in which mode, and what are the changes that you feel that each in your industry is required to make the operations better? Please elaborate on that. And do you feel there is transparency of operation in your supply chains? If yes, then please why? And if no, then please why? I think we can start off with Arush, and then we'll go on to, we'll start off with Arush, then we'll go on to Subrat, and then we'll go on to Umesh. Arush, the floor is yours.
So I'll restrict my comments to the petrochemical division that I represent. Reliance is too big a conglomerate for me to go into every use case. In petrochemicals, we face this challenge that most of our product is has a hazardous element to it, yeah, whether it's chemicals or it's gases. There are deep regulatory issues that come into play. There is this whole issue of ISO tankers, which are the best ways to move chemicals around or gases around. But within the country, while they are type approved for imports and exports, they are not type approved for domestic transportation for what I can politely put as reasons of jurisdiction on, in various authorities that there are. Coming to multimodal as such, I think the problem is one of infrastructure. I think railways has its priorities set. Steel is one of them. So when you add passengers to that list of priorities, they really don't have space for volumetric cargoes. Whether it's their freight structure, which is very loaded towards again, heavy cargo and not parcels. Their services are also not there to support the parcel movements that are possible. I think Dabar would agree with me there. And uh, for example, a simple thing like on the quadrilateral route, you can have a schedule of services, which is not there at present. So on infrastructure, on pricing issues, on policy issues, I think a lot needs to be done, and not just on building of additional railway lines, etc. All the policies need to be aligned so that an alternative to road logistics can be constructed in the future. Coming to your last question, whether there's transparency in our supply chains. Again, speaking for petrochemicals and Reliance in general, I think we are very, very transparent. I can give you an example. For example, in the liquid and gas space, uh, on a common platform, which is WhatsApp, we put daily allocation of a transporter, which is visible to all other transporters. You can't get more transparent than that.
Thank you. It does make sense because, everybody gets worried about doing rail transport. So that is something that needs to be looked into. Coming to Subrat, your views?
I think it's working now. Yeah. I will explain that in our case, particularly when we are producing steel, steel is produced from the raw material which is available only in the very, very remote places where most of the time there are no road infrastructures, very remote railway infrastructures, and we have been restricted by, there are so many government policies on availability of rakes. So what happens? But we have to depend on the iron ore to produce steel, which most of the urban people are using now. That iron ore comes from a very, very tribal place. That comes, part of the cargo comes by road, then part it has to come transported by rail to various ports, and from the ports again we have to depend on the domestic or coastal shipments to transport it to various our group steel plant, where mainly they are located at the urban locations. So here what happens, as far as railway is concerned, there is a huge change by, like before 20 years I have seen Government of India, if the railway people they say. There is no questions asked, no explanations, nothing is given. And while transporting the cargo by rail, there will be huge issues. We see that cargo is getting loaded and it's coming and delivered. But prior to that, the process of indenting, the process of supply of rakes, then the process of sick wagons, where huge loss takes place when you transport the bulk materials. And most of the wagons, these are all have been, might have been given or might have been included in railways maybe 25, 30 or 40 years back. But the way we are now going towards progress in industries, in making steel plants, aluminum plants, that way the rake availability has not increased. So now what is happening, Government of India to supplement to Government of India, all these private players like logistics companies, port companies, as well as the bulk, like aluminum or steel or these coal companies, they started buying their own railway rakes, and they are supplying to railways, or they are trying to get some rebate from railways, and that's what now we are depending on more on them. And as far as road also is concerned, in India, the road logistics is not at all organized, and particularly the sector from where our bulk raw material gets transported to various steel plants or power plants or aluminum plants. There the unions are there, the local people are there. There the cost has got no sanctity in that. If, of course, we have to see the social cost to take care of the local people, but there what happens, abnormally they say decide the price, this is our price. If you get it truck at 100 rupees or at 1000 rupees, they will say our price will be 1500 rupees. So there are lots of regulations has to be developed from government side. Otherwise, this road logistics can never be organized and can never be controlled. And railways, there is a continuous improvements have been taking place. Railways have been developing so many policies, new freight policies for coal, new freight policies for steel.
Correct.
Yeah, so there is a lots of improvement. And as far as transparency is concerned, we work in JSW in a very transparent way. Our logistics costs, even if like vendors or transporters or the railway people, they all time say that this is the distance from your mines to the port, this is the cost, so we have to get this much. So we work in a very transparent way.
So I guess from what you and Arush are saying is that we need a lot of improvement as far as rail logistics is concerned. Road logistics also with the new projects that have been announced, the new highways, the dedicated freight corridor and all. And considering that Jindal does have its factories in some of the remote locations where probably more than railway you are dependent on road. If they come out with better policies, it's going to help and it's going to reduce the cost also.
And here I will add like the new generation ports in private sector, maybe Gangabharam, maybe Dhamra, maybe.
All right. Umesh, do you, you are an FMCG company, so keeping in mind the multimodal, it goes from the factory to the port or to the airport because you are also exporting and things. So what is your views the same as Arush's and Subrat's with, I mean, we've discussed rail logistics, so I would like to concentrate your view either on the air part because you will be exporting by air, by ocean if you have, and yes, of course, the road logistics part of it because we are going to be talking in depth on the rail part much later on. So what is your opinion? Are there transparencies in the operations? And also, what are the problems that you in the FMCG or Dabur face when it comes to multimodal transport?
Government of India comes with the policies to put industrial zones in regions like Tezpur, okay, or Baddi, let's say, okay, and Tezpur typically. So you have the factory and you get the fiscal benefit, but you do not get the transport, good transport from there. So it's a huge challenge. And in Baddi is one of the largest clusters in the country in terms of manufacturing, but the transport is unionized, okay? And no company can afford to put the truck from the Baddi to Chennai, let's say. So they have to break the journey in between and make up the hub, and then from there regular transport it will come, okay? And one is that availability of transport in the required lanes. And second is even availability of train transport in the required lane. So I will give the example of one of the lane from the Patna. Let's say I'm literally struggling from south and west, right? Even though I have to move daily 30 trucks. And in fact, I approached to government railway officials and I tried to call them. I have personal their mobile numbers, no response. And so I think a lot of work to be done in that space. And if we have good infrastructure and definitely we can ship the goods at right time, at right cost. And third thing in lot of, D2C, e-com business is also growing. Let's say our pharma business. In pharma business, you have a small case like, you have gold bhasma. One small bhasma comes 1 lakh rupees basically, right? You have to service that also. So, and you do not require FTL for that. You have to be very, very efficient in that case. So, it requires a lot of change into the organization also. In fact, in my team also, like having a green channel for that and going for PTL as well as FTL wherever it is required. And in terms of transparency, we have very good transparency in terms of internal to the Dabur system. We have a TMS for the primary transporters as well as for secondary transporters. All visibility you can get online. But whenever we try to export it or import it, let's say from Sri Lanka, I am bringing some items, right? And Nhava Sheva it reaches in 3 days. But the FSSI takes 7-8 days to clear it. Even though I am making a standard product which is well verified and with all the reports, even after it takes 7 to 8 days. So I think we really need to work with the government agencies, tell them our problems, and government also should be the proactive in terms of resolving the issues. So those are challenges what we faces. And yes, whenever there is external stakeholders, lot of cargo shippers or transporters who are outside our system, there lot more integration to be done with the company systems, which brings much more transparency.
So you're talking about the technology front where you want your vendors to use the same tech or be on the same platform as you are so that you have visibility right from door to door kind of a thing, either for imports or exports. Part
Yes,
of it.
so like I will give you, we have a control tower. I can see all the trucks within the surface which are moving within India. Okay, it is integrated. If any delay happens, I can take action on that. But in terms of any cargo, let's say, like any vessel is there, at that time, then we have to go through the freight forwards. Then it gets delayed. The information is there, but we do not have online information. So I think there is a scope of integration.
That makes sense that with the volumes that you are handling that you would want to have integration. But I would like to add over here that, with the local problems that you are facing at either of the ports, we have some fantastic associations, and I'm privileged to be part of them. And we do some phenomenal work, if I can be a spokesperson for our associations. And we have monthly meetings with the customs, which are called as the PTFC meetings. They are public forum meetings. They invite shippers, they invite importers, and I can speak on behalf of our association, either at Nhava Sheva or at Delhi and all, that should you have these kind of problems, please, we would be happy to invite you for the meeting when it's happening next, and you can come and raise your points, because we have a fantastic set of commissioners now who are very proactive, and they do take quick decisions, and they are very responsive. They do pick up the calls. And with respect to the problems that you have with the rail and all, we have Ramaji, maybe the next time that you be having a meeting in Delhi, we can take this up too. Right, sir? Perfect.
Sure. Thank you.
So that will be done then.
Yes.
We can say that. Giri, thank you for listening to everybody patiently. Now it's your turn. Airlines, they are a boon. Without them, we wouldn't survive. We also know how difficult it is to bring an airline into India. You are a fast-growing airline. You are relatively new. What have been your regulatory challenges?
It's a great question. Chaitali, it's a great question. I mean, first of all, before I get into the topic, see, if I see India 10 years before and what India is now, India has progressed a lot, honestly, progressed a lot. I mean, there's great initiatives from the government, the great initiatives from the partners like, airports and everybody. But having said that, there are two, three items, probably, we need, as an industry, we need some support. So today, if you look at, the world, when you compare, Singapore or Dubai or, US or whatever, there are very simplified process. See, there is something called a known shipper concept, RA status, regulatory access status. So what happens is, if the shipper, if a company like Dabur or Reliance or anybody, JSW or anybody that matter, they are the largest conglomerates in India. So the largest conglomerates, what happens is, it's profiled in the government system saying that, the known shipper. So the shipper has to provide their products and what are they shipping and everything. So what happens is the moment, the information is furnished in the system, it doesn't need to go through a formal security checks or clearances. It sails through. I mean, if you look at US, so one of the reason, the shipping happens very faster because, the operations is very, very smooth because, they have the very simplified processes. And again, as an airlines, each and every space is, very, very important for us. So when it comes to the cargo, what happens is, there are different categories. Like, you have something called courier shipments, you have something called cargo shipments or whatever. Today, the regulatory process doesn't allow us to mix the cargo right now. So we need to build a container separately. But having said that, if we can able to mix the loads, it will give us an advantage in terms of optimizing the space.
Correct.
Yeah. And the another point I wanted to touch upon is about the screening process. See, today, let's say a month in, on a peak seasons, what happens is, today the regulatory process is each and every piece has to go for a screening. So if you benchmark with other countries, what happens is instead of a piece-wise screening, they can do a unit-wise screening.
Correct.
So that is another simplified process because the month ends, all the airports are choked. I mean, long queues, and with few initiatives, I think India can see. I think the vision for the government of India is $3 trillion in 2030. I think with the small changes, I think we should able to achieve that in the near future.
I think what you said was absolutely brilliant, is because the known shipper concept is the only one of its kind in America, and it came after 9/11. So as much as we hate 9/11, that's what has created. I would say it has flaws and it has pros, because as a known shipper, you can fly on freighters as well as on passenger, but as unknown, you only have to fly out on freighter. I don't know how economically viable it would be for the airlines here, is because one of the complaints that I listen to personally from our clients is that it's extremely expensive to have a known to get registered with the US Customs, but that's another part of aspect. But to have this as a known shipper concept, I think would be a brilliant thing, because it would solve so many problems. To allow ULD screenings and not do individual screenings would also ease, I think, the cost on the shippers, because they have to pay for the X-ray. So it reduces it substantially. And yes, it also reduces the handling cost. So if you're allowed to mix courier as well as cargo, then the rates could also come down. I think that's a brilliant, brilliant thing, and maybe we can take this forward going ahead in the coming months, or maybe in next year, and we can look at it. So that's a wonderful, wonderful suggestion. I'm extremely happy as an air freight agent to listen for that. Arush, I wanted to, it's already been discussed in Rama sir's session about public-private partnership, but Prime Minister Modi ji has unveiled the Amrit Kal Maritime Vision of 2047, and along with the public-private partnership and the Maritime Vision of 2030, do you think, everybody wants India to be a global leader? I think we are at the best phase when it comes to local, vocal, because we have so many products being manufactured here. I know for a fact, not because my dad is sitting here, but he loves going on to Amazon, because he says, do you know how many products are being made in India? And then like a small child, he wants to buy everything, because he's just excited that we have made in India so well. I want to understand from you, do you think all of this that the government is doing, from the export perspective, from an import perspective, it's actually going to help us achieve and make us a global leader when it comes to supply chain? I want your perspective as a user.
That's a very interesting question, Jatali. So you have to see all these policies or all these announcements on infrastructure holistically, rightly from a helicopter view. And you will find that all these policies are interconnected. So it's not just the planning to connect all the infrastructure or interconnect the infrastructure. The policies themselves lend themselves to this kind of efficiency. And the government is absolutely right. I think we have a historical example of China where never before in human history kind of infrastructure has been built in the last 3 decades. We frankly have to do a lot of catch up to do. If you look at capital, the global capital flows are pretty much free today. So capital scarcity is not the thing that prevents you from developing world-class infrastructure. It's also not one of the things that will prevent investments from the China plus one strategy coming to India. What will prevent, however, is the lack of infrastructure, the lack of speed, the lack of the very important point that Srinivas ji brought up, which is collaboration. At the heart of collaboration is sharing of data. And in India, it's actually we are at nascent baby steps as far as that goes.
I think they're working quite a bit on it on the backside, in the behind scenes, for data sharing, and the present ministries that we have and the officers that we have in the ministries. They are doing some really good work. Maybe it will take a couple of more years for it to come out, for people to understand the kind of efforts that are being put in. And this is probably a glorious time for us, because the government is working hand in hand with the logistics industry, setting up different policies. Also, the states are getting involved and coming up with their own set of policies and all. I think going forward, we are quite optimistic. Right now, it may look a little bleak, but we are quite optimistic that we should be able to, because I can personally speak on behalf of the freight forwarders and the customs brokers that we give phenomenal service compared to agents abroad. Pardon, no intention of getting anybody angry, but we go out of our way and literally 24/7. So I think we are in.
Sorry, I may have lent in a streak of negativity there, but no, if you look at this whole issue of trade historically, and you read any meta narrative on the subject of rise of Asia, rise of China, India, etc., you would find that a subtext that it's only the trend line which is coming back with a hiatus of say 200 years or 300 years from now. So we are just going back to the original trend line that we've actually enjoyed as Asia or as India.
Yes.
India. And historically, we are well placed, whether it's trade, whether it's generation of surpluses, etc., to dominate this economic space.
Thank you. Giri, like I mentioned before, that Etihad started operations in 2003, but you have become one of the fastest growing airlines in the history of commercial aviation, so congratulations to Etihad for that. You have entered in 2021 in a proof of concept agreement with Speed Cargo Technologies to leverage the provider's AI products to maximize cargo capacity on flights by rolling out 3 AI-powered products: Amplify, Cargo Eye, and Assemble. Can you tell us a little something about this? And also, how is it going to optimize and improve the efficiency handling cargo? And are you going to introduce this in India? And will you be the first airline to do this? A lot of questions, but yes, I was quite excited to know about this.
Oh, great question, Chaitali. I think, this is a wonderful, collaboration between a company called Speed Cargo. Speed Cargo is a Singapore-based company, and Etihad is one of the first airlines wanted to collaborate with Speed Cargo, and then, we did close to about, 1,000 trial flights, and the results are amazing. The results, what we have seen recently is, we were able to optimize 16.4% of a cargo in a better way, yeah. 16.4% is a big number, yeah.
That's
it's a
massive.
very big number.
Yes, it is.
So there are 3 solutions like, Amplify, Cargo Eye, and Assemble. Amplify, it's with the airline side. So the moment, you have installed the AI solution, so what happens is it will ease out the booking process. So today what happens is the shipper, they send you the enquiries in an email format, and then they have to punch in your dimensions and everything. So this will automatically pick up and then simplify the process. And also it will advise the load planner in terms of, how do you plan the load in different containers, yeah. That's an amazing tool. And the second one is a Cargo Eye. Cargo Eye today as a ground handler or terminal operator, what happens is, the measuring the dimensions is more of manual. So this, it captures the picture, image, and then it automatically measures the dimensions in centimeters or millimeters, whatever way you want it. And then the information has been digitalized. And then if there is any variation, immediately, shoot an email to the shipper or airlines and everybody, yeah. And the third one is Assemble. So Assemble, what happens is, it will demonstrate to you in terms of, how to build a pallet in an effective way.
That's very interesting.
That's what, we have seen a significant improvement of, 16.4% optimization of loads. We have seen it, and I'm sure, Etihad is one of the pioneer airlines in terms of, implementing the solution very soon. The first one, the solution will be implemented in Middle East, our own hub, which is Abu Dhabi, and with the partner support like, GMR or Mile or Bile or whatever, and we should able to implement the solution in India also soon.
Yes, we have people from Mile as well as Adani and from GMR, so I'm sure this is something. And I guess if you're going to optimize your loads, that means you'll be able to carry more cargo, and that means reduction in freight, right, Giri? Correct?
Absolutely.
We are going on record
The
to say, we're going to
benefits-
record it saying that the minute you roll it out means we are going to get less rates from you.
Absolutely.
It's done.
It's going to benefit the trade for sure. Yeah.
Nothing helps us more than listening to the word less freight. Umesh, Dabur is one of your leading FMCG companies. You export to over 120 countries. What are the best practices that you have adopted to improve your logistics efficiency with your vendors, reduce your transit time? And yes, you did briefly touch upon the technology part of it. So if we can, because we are also running short of time. Thanks.
So, if you see historically, Dabur was a Ayurvedic company established more than 100 years back. And our footprint started from Calcutta, then our office moved to Delhi. And our footprint, factory footprint was more or less north and central. And now as we are growing in south and west, last year we have put up our Indore plant, and recently within 2 years basically, so we will be coming with the south plant also. So as of now our distance traveled one is, so in terms of overall distance traveled is more, and but once our south plant comes it will be much lesser. One is, so we continuously do network optimization exercise, see where is the demand clusters are growing and where should be your factory should be coming, and depots should be shifted also. I mean, as the post GST, everybody has merged the smaller depots into the bigger depots, and as we get the better transportation, we converge the number of depots. Let's say any FMCG companies has 50 depots, so today they are operating 35 depots. So similarly, we are operating with the 26 service points and operating with 3 mother depots. So one is the network optimization exercise. Second is developing your vendors in and around your factory cluster so that you move very less distance basically, okay, in having an ecosystem in and around of your supply centers. And third is, going for upsize of the trucks. Each and every year you work on efficiency, you work on utilizations basically. And fourth one is wherever possible, like a category, personal care category or some Ayurveda category, you go for a smaller factory basically, like nano factories where your MOQs are smaller. You do not build up much inventories, but whatever is required, you quickly change over, give the better mix basically, so that you can reduce the cost. And working with the partners, like we work with Musk, so who operates a train for us, okay, and we are looking for a partners who can operate the dedicated train for us. Let's say I have told from the Birganj, Nepal to south part or west part. So we are very keen to work such partners, but unfortunately we are not getting it. And in terms of technology, we have the DTMS. We work with we have SAP IBP, and we have we use the AI tools, and all information whichever possible we capture into our system and try to improve our planning accuracy, and so that we can minimize the inventory and reduce the lead time. And in fact, the control tower gives such a great visibility in terms of where the vehicle is. If there are any breakdown in the vehicle, then immediately action is taken on that one, right? And similarly, if some documentation for import and export also we can integrate, we are looking for such opportunities so that we have everything online visible.
That's very interesting. We actually, just 2 months back, I had taken a women delegation for the first time to the Indo-Nepal border, and we had gone to ICP Raxaul, ICD Birganj, and ICP Birganj, both of them, or rather all three of them. And we had met up with the commissioner for LPAI. Actually, Triple FAI, a parent foundation, works very closely with LPI. I think we might have a solution for you for reducing your transit time and also having trains operated. Maybe not immediately, but in the coming future months or maybe the year or so, I think we should be able to do it. So we can take this offline for you. But there could be a solution available, is what I think, on basis of the conversation that we've had 2 months back. Because they are very, very eager to do it. We already have a train operating, but yes, there could be more trains operating also. So we will take that
forward.
up.
Thank you.
Thanks. Arush, your industry has always fascinated me, liquid and oil gas. Because it's so technical, it's so complex, the videos are so fascinating. And even the logistics players, very specific, very few, highly skilled ones. And do you think we have enough service providers to cater to the oil and gas industry? And you know, your industry is like when we were discussing and we were having a conversation also, is a prime example of why multimodal is important. Now, you know, when I was doing research on multimodal, it was very surprising. Okay, for me it was surprising. I'm sure all of you would be aware of it, that intermodal means that you have different players handling different things. But multimodal means that you have one company handling A to Z of everything. So I want to ask you, do you think that in your operations, having intermodal activities would be better, or would multimodal, if you have one player or a group of companies combined together offering you services under one roof, will that be good for you?
Wow. You'll make me think on stage, huh? Uh, so we have a product category known as polymers. If you're familiar with polymer transportation across the globe, in America and in Europe, entire rake loads go to customers from the producer. Uh, so, uh, so the maturity cycle of the market, the logistics, and indeed the customer relationship is such that these things are possible. In India, there's not a single customer who can take a rake load or would like to do so also, if even if the capacity enables him to do. There's not a single producer, and Reliance is not the only producer of polymers in India, who has done this. So there's a maturity cycle issue also around multimodal logistics. Coming to your question whether uh, there are enough service providers for HASCAM transportation in specifically, no. You would find that everybody builds to purpose and builds to contract. Uh, and you are absolutely right. They are far more efficient than their non-HASCAM counterparts. I'll give you a story. We were expanding, the Dahej plant was expanding, the capacity was doubling, and there was a requirement for 40-feet trailers for exports from that plant. And I had the opportunity to make sure that some of the chemical players, the chemical and glass players, go into the export model because it's very similar fleet kind of operations. I can share with you that while in a month, one trailer of the non-HASCAM vendor did about 7 to 8 trips, the chemical players manage 13 to 14 trips. So that's the level of difference between the players that we have. In terms of intermodal, coming to your last question, whether intermodal or multimodal, obvious preference for companies like ours would be for multimodal.
I agree.
You know.
I agree. You know, has cargo is becoming a problem, and a lot of people don't want to work with has cargo. But yes, I think the kind of training that we in India go through for our has with our staff and all, I don't think any other country does that kind of training. So I'm extremely proud again of our Indian logistics, because we do a lot of work on this. We are running short of time. Ayushi has very politely indicated. So Giri, the last question is to you before we do our concluding remarks. What are Etihad's growth plans for India? We have the government announcing green airports coming up, at least about 30, 35 of them. The 2-tier, 3-tier cities have phenomenal potential. As a foreign airline, have you considered exploiting the potential that is there? And what are your thoughts on it, your challenges, and how do you have a game plan? I mean, whatever you can disclose in an open forum.
Chaitali. I mean, see, if you look at any international airlines, you know, they are heavily focused on the metros. And recently, last year, you know, we started our operations out of Cochin, and then, you know, we are coming into Calicut, Trivandrum, and we are starting our operations out of Lucknow. So, I mean, definitely, we all know that, you know, Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities in India plays a major role. And we also understand there's a 30 to 35% of the traffic, comes from, be it passenger or cargo. It's all, comes from the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So expansions, our plans are there. And also on the cargo front, there's a lot of support needed from government, especially, let's talk about a tier 3 city. Currently the shipper, brings the cargo on a truck from, those cities to the metros, and then it gets onboard connections. We have seen some initiatives from airports in terms of, running a shuttle, bonded shuttle. But that's a great initiative, and we're going to partner with those airports and, try to enhance our cargo volumes. That's the way forward, Chaitali.
That's really nice. I was privy to some information that one of the states, I'm not allowed to talk about it, is coming up with its own state policies, and they're looking at setting up nodes and where they are going to cut down on the travel costs, like what Umesh, you mentioned, coming long distances. So if your cargo is coming from Baddi down to Nhava Sheva, they're going to have those hubs where it's going to reduce. And coastal shipping, I think, is going to play a very important role because our roads are overutilized. We are looking from the environmental, from the sustainable point of view. We don't do enough with coastal shipping, and that's where our last question, Subratji, to you is, because we have literally run out of time. What do you think about our using of our coastal, using coastal shipping? Yes, please, with the mic, because we don't use enough, we don't give enough emphasis on inland waterways and on coastal, and your factories are
Yeah.
literally around those
Yeah,
places.
I will take only 1 minute time, Chaitali. The best part of us, I will tell you, we are with particularly the bulk cargo, like maybe aluminum, maybe iron ore. These are the not hazardous cargo, but this creates lots of pollution, lots of accidents on the road. If the truck comes, it comes by road. So we are now thinking of having slurry pipeline for iron ore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the iron ore in the form of, it will be mixed with water and it will be kept 60-40 ratio or subject to the grade of the iron ore. Then cargo will be moving almost 300 to 350 kilometers by slurry pipeline to various ports.
Oh, wow.
And from there it will come to coastal shipments to our various steel plants. Even if our Bombay steel plant, we have a port at Jaigarh. The cargo comes by coastal shipment from all eastern ports, not only one port. It comes to Jaigarh through Cape-size vessels. From Cape-size vessels, again it goes by the self-propelled barges, about 10 to 12,000 tonners barges, to our one of the plant which is just nearby Alibag. So we manage the logistics in such a way to reduce the cost as well as to reduce the pollution, taking care of the environment.
I think that's very impressive. Do you think your contemporaries and your competitors will also do the same thing going
yeah,
forward?
people started doing it.
Already
now,
started doing it?
Our earlier SR Steel, which is now coming under MNS, they have a slurry pipeline, 300 kilometer they are moving. So all these steel companies, they started towards in that direction.
All right. Before we move on to our Q&A, and we probably have time just for 2 or 3, I need one line from you, Arush, and from you, Umesh, is that what are your views on the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor that was endorsed by PM Modi in this year's G20 summit, highlighting India's dedication to expanding connectivity for the international borders to countermeasure China's extensive infrastructure program, especially the Belt and Road Initiative. So I just need like one line from both of you before we go on to the Q&A. Thank you. Do you want to go first?
So I think it's a great initiative. Obviously, any addition to capacity going west or coming from west is welcome. One of the concerns is that the product will get handled multiple times. That needs to be looked into. Also, currently services on the various legs do not exist, but I'm sure the investment will come in. But having said that, this is a strategic initiative, and obviously India is part of the initiative. If India is part of the initiative, Reliance will back it.
Thank you. Umesh?
I think yes, this is a great initiative. As India also becomes one of the manufacturing hub. There is a lot of opportunity to export. So many times we have seen the stocks in my previous organization also, stocks used to come from Vietnam. Vietnam it used to go to GCC countries, and the freight was much lesser compared to what from India. And they used to say, no, India is a costly location. So we would like to bring the stuff from the Vietnam, even though that was a part of same MNC actually, right? So I think if we work on that, and government definitely works, and there will be, we will be exporting much more, and definitely, I mean, our import bill will be lesser if we export more, basically.
Correct. All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Ayushi, do we have any Q&A? We have literally, does anybody? Yes, please.
We have time for just one question, and do specify the speaker you would like to answer. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Rahul Das. I represent Indian Oil Corporation. It is a question to everybody in general. The company I represent is India's largest refiner and retailer of fuel. We have just started taking attention to the carbon footprint we generate. We expect to be carbon neutral by 2046, net zero along with the country by 2070. My question significantly for multimodal logistics is, do you internalize a carbon footprint internal carbon pricing when you're considering deciding between individual modes of logistics? And compared to this, in the same line, how seriously do you envision the rapid growth of LCL, mixed load logistics aggregators in the near future? I just feel that this is something that we should take into consideration when deciding our ultimate freight rates, internal carbon pricing.
I think it's a brilliant question about internal thing. Would you like to go ahead,
so,
please? Yes.
So I would like to answer that. So if you typically FMCG products, one primary movement, then secondary movement happens. So in most of the companies are in pilot stage of doing the trial with the EV vehicles, basically, okay? And within the cities, if they can deliver the loads. All FMCGs are working on that. We are also working on that. And in long haul, as of now, we are not getting the bigger capacities, but we have seen some of the vehicles which will be, carrying around 15 tons, and soon we will be taking the trial. So if we succeed that, and it will be running in at least one lanes for us, and similar way other companies are also taking trial. And definitely we would like to move more by the rail, if it is rail infrastructure, and which reduces the carbon footprint, and we are working at. And in terms of our factories, if we say, we are as of now we are producing 10+% of our energy by the solar, actually, and that percentage will be going up to 25 within 1 or 2 years. So that's how we are working, and this is our commitment to the environment also.
Thank you. Arush, would you like to say?
You mentioned sustainability. Is it a factor in deciding whether how to move material? I can happily tell you, yes. In the beginning of the session, I had shared with you that we place almost 100% of stock transfers via multimodal to South India, and of that, almost 50% is by coastal. And the decision. And you can imagine that it would have taken a lot of change management with business, etc., to establish those waves so that there's no business loss due to the increased transit times.
All right. Thank you. I think that officially closes our session. Thank you very much for being wonderful panelists, and thank you very much for being wonderful audience. I'm very happy that after lunch we still have a full house. So thank you very much.